So yeah, I am toxic for sure.
That's a leave for Ontario, California, where I will be meeting up with Chalice, and we will be commencing our Muay Thai intense training. I have to say that the process of leaving my kids for 2 weeks was pretty hard. I haven't left them for that long, pretty much since they were born. So a good start. I decided to do some light reading on the plane, and some of these books got me a little bit nervous. But then I landed, and it was all good.
We ready.
Gonna do some Muay Thai. Right now I'm about to pass out though, because it's like midnight, back on East Coast time.
Oh, it sure is.
After a good night's rest, we got up and drove to Chainsaw Fitness, the training facility owned by our Muay Thai coach, Jake Rockstar. And we met Jamie Sheldon, who will be leading the strength and conditioning portion of our training.
So Muay Thai, that's my passion. I love fighting. I love to beat people up. To be honest, I kind of like getting beat up too. Routinely, if I don't take too much damage in sparring, I'll have some of my training partners just hit me. I've been competing in Muay Thai for 16 years. The cool thing about what I do that's unique is I fight Muay Thai in a cage. That's not common. Most of the time Muay Thai is done in a ring. But what I specifically do is cage Muay Thai with typically 4-ounce gloves, which again is unique to the sport. Normally you're wearing boxing gloves, and so it adds this level of intensity that a lot of people are just not comfortable with.
I've just met Jake. He has this thing about him where it's kind of like a boyish, like, innocence.
Not really getting the innocent vibe at all.
But he's not innocent.
I heard you have a saying.
I have a few. Remind me of the one you're thinking of.
Fight, solve problems.
Oh, definitely. It works for me. It's not going to work for everybody, but if you have some type of a skill set, yeah. Forget the talking. Fights normally, like, it may not be the first option, but it definitely gets the job done.
Name's Jamie Sheldon. I live in Riverside, California, 40 years old. I don't like to get punched in the face, so I do professional arm wrestling.
Jake and Jamie are also best friends, and they actually met on the arm wrestling table.
Jamie's just sweet and I can already see our training days being vastly different from our conditioning days.
My training isn't MMA, it's specifically for my sport. You know, I'll do arms 3 days a week, back 3 days a week, shoulders and chest maybe once or twice, and legs every 6 months.
We asked Jamie how he's going to tailor a Muay Thai conditioning routine for us, given that he comes from an arm wrestling background.
You need to be strong everywhere, right? But you can't be limited mobility-wise. So tight movements that we do for arm wrestling where we need to be in here, you need to be more extended because you don't want to be able to not fully extend your arm. Yeah. Because if you spend 3 years arm wrestling and try to throw a punch, I can't even throw a football anymore. So we'll continue the proper mechanics as far as getting things fully stretched out if you're going to be doing back exercises, any kind of pulling, because you don't want to have that limited mobility.
Why did you choose to start in this sport?
Growing up, I thought if you were a black belt in anything, you could literally kill someone with a touch. And in the UFC, you got to see like that really wasn't reality. And so the ones that kind of stood out, boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and then the ones that can kind of put it all together.
I understand you have a broad range of history with and relationship with different types of fitness, including military experience. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Army for 8 years. That's where I really got introduced to fitness in general. Being around a bunch of just manly men, fed, and grew who I am now. So my own personal training routine, I keep it uncomfortable. I will never put my own clients through something that I wouldn't do. My coach that I had for a long time always wanted it uncomfortable for me. Even through pains, injury, back issues, it didn't matter. But for him, and what he's instilled in me is mentality, mental growth, pushing past it, knowing that in 60 minutes it'll be over. I expect the same out of my clients as well. I shame myself, so I have a lot of I know people do a lot of positive affirmations to themselves. You know, they look in the mirror and like, you're valued, you know? You're valuable. I don't. I do like the anti-affirmation, exactly. You're a piece of shit. Who the f are you? That keeps me humble, and that keeps me accountable to myself, and it keeps me honest.
Work harder, you lazy waste of space. Man, I feel like $1 million.
My normal training starts 5 a.m. every single day.
If you're doing 5 a.m., then how much sleep do you get?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, he said, too many people focus on trying to get a certain amount of hours of sleep, just sleep faster. So I'm normally falling asleep about 10 o'clock at night, and I'm up at 3.
He's up at 3?
Yeah, he sure did.
What do you think is gonna make a good Muay Thai athlete? Like, okay,
Okay, the real question is, just looking at us, who would win?
I mean, I would put my money right here.
I hate you.
Longer.
No.
When I see a potential client walk in who has some height, they're lean, athletic.
It's not my fault.
Somebody
She's very
with
clumsy.
somebody with a strong work ethic, likes to train a lot, doesn't mind repping stuff out, all that stuff. That stuff is what we kind of look for physically. Mentally, she leaving. So I'll get to folks like you. I'll put myself in that same category. Okay, so that's what I want to see right off the bat.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that, it's a compromise. For a shorter guy, you have to kind of work your way inside, try to stay inside, and hopefully if you're shorter, you're stronger. You have to work inside, work different angles, whereas a taller person, they can kind of hang back, extend the jab, kick you to death. There are advantages to being tall, but there are advantages to being small too. When you get inside, it's almost like being on the backside of a waterfall, like, oh, it's safe in here. And then there's an overhand right is typically what you see catch a taller fighter. It's typically the knockout punch. They come in low, boom.
I'm a lefty.
Ooh, yeah, that's right. Southpaw. That's the word for it.
So the best thing to be is both. You want to be able to
Whatever,
go
I'll do
both ways, right? But yeah, definitely when you have a change in stance, it throws the other fighter off.
Okay.
I personally I'm right-handed. I kind of prefer to fight southpaw, and then from there, switch it back and forth. If you're not coming in consistently and repping all the boring work, jabbing thousands of times, just all the footwork, there are really no shortcuts to it. You can play to your strengths and kind of get to a certain level, but eventually you'll be exposed for the things that you're not able to do well. You want the shadow boxing, you want the heavy bag work, you want the mitt work, and you also want the sparring. A lot of times trainers will have their students kind of hold off on the sparring. They're not ready for it yet, and they're probably not to go against somebody that's going to kick their butt. But you see is this false sense of confidence when somebody's very good at hitting the bag, very good at hitting the mitts, very clean with their shadow boxing, and then they go to spar somebody, or they're in an altercation on the street, and then they're like, well, what the They're moving. Hey, put your arms down. Oh, they're hitting me back. The timing's all off. The sparring starts right away, and it'll be controlled sparring. It'll be me sparring them. What that does is it helps make their bag work more realistic. Instead of walking up to the bag and just hitting on the bag and just doing whatever they feel, they'll hit the bag and then circle out, get their hand up, in, out. They need to be covered and rotating out.
What's some pet peeves you have when you're training?
Oh, that's a good question.
I will tell you my very biggest pet peeve is when I get a young man or woman come in and say, I've had 50 street fights.
Ooh, they say that to you?
Oh yeah, I want to be a fighter. train me. And for me, that's like, okay, right away, I'm kicking their ass first day. Like literally, putting it on them, bruising them. I hope they're limping out. If they choose to come back, then I'll know, like, okay, maybe they're serious.
Pet peeves as far as training, the whole can't, which really means won't. Not everybody's going to be a Jake, so we kind of have to understand that that type of work ethic is very rare at the consistency level. To do that for that many years is tough. I mean, even I don't do that anymore. But yeah, the whole can't and getting people to understand that it's a won't and they have to change their attitude to change their life, that's the main thing that I try to instill in people. But yeah, I agree with the way you beat the crap out of them and then have them come back. Yeah, exactly. Humble yourself in every situation, right?
I really am always actively trying to tell myself there's no threshold. I will not stop. Any workout, anything I'm told to do, okay. And you get started, 1 rep at a time. If you tell me, all right, today's workout's 1,000 burpees, I better get started.
Yeah,
so I don't have a can't. What I see
He's gonna yell at you.
Yeah.
You can't.
So what I do see though is when somebody has, even like if it's been a past injury or something that's kind of like an ailment, that's always like, well, that's their like their crutch.
Right.
And so mentally you're gonna have to really like challenge yourself to push that aside and just go. If you pass out, we'll revive you.
Okay,
if
good.
you throw up,
That's really encouraging.
yeah,
Anyway.
throw up, come on back when I'm finished. So what we're doing here is a sign of weakness.
Here's a sneak peek from our first couple of training days. We want to hear what you have to say about Jake and Jamie in the comments. But you'll just have to wait till our next episode to see how it all really went down. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.